Good afternoon, this is Lucky Links. So what is the messages, or are the messages, for this current week in 2020, the year of the metal rat, with what is going on in the world coming up right after this? Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, wherever you are. This is Lucky Links, and here is the messages. Here are the messages for the week. I will admit that this week I have a sort of an agenda that I'm actually going to push to influence the readings and the meanings of the readings. It's sort of a wild card here. I got the Mad Hatter. There is something specifically I would like to express. And it is also in relation to the last video that I did with Clyde.
Would you like me to come on camera now?
No, Clyde, it's okay. There will be more Clyde videos. People have spoken. They really seem to enjoy Clyde. This was an experiment, and I can't explain how many layers came in, or how many things came together for that idea to come to fruition, but it presented itself rather quickly, and I'm still trying to understand everything that I'm learning from this, but I have learned a great deal of experience from that last video. And for those of you who haven't seen the Clyde video, the I Ching prediction that I did with my pal Clyde,
Would you like me to come on camera now?
No, Clyde, it's still okay. I still got this. I will put it at the end of the video and you can watch it. But I have brought out three special decks. This one is children's illustrations from the 1001 Nights. And then I have my Alice in Wonderland playing cards. And then this is one of my all-time favorite decks. This is the Whimsical Tarot by Dorothy Morrison. This one affected me greatly when I bought it, so much so that I actually, the tattoo I have is actually of the Magician from this deck, which is Puss in Boots, which is, I think, one of the greatest stories ever written. Right now, I think more than ever, people need to laugh. Right now, more than ever, I think people need to see where their pride has taken them, where their anger has taken them, and where their fear has taken them, and their ignorance has taken them. I think that we are right now being faced with all of this. And I've said in other videos that this is, in Tibetan Bond, we view situations like this as purification. And I've said before that the way we look at it is when there's something that's causing pain or difficulty or suffering, when you purify the habit or let go of the habit or release the habit that's causing the pain or the suffering, whatever, the pain goes. That's in everything, in mind, in body, in our spirit. If we look at it across the board, that's sort of a rule we look at. And one of the things that this situation taught me or made me think about was the price that we pay to make it into adulthood. And what exactly was it worth it? And if you think back, there's probably, each one of you probably has a moment of their life where if they think back to their childhood, there was this moment where they were faced with something where they still wanted to be a kid, and the allure of adulthood was calling, and it usually came in the form of social pressure. The other kids pressuring you to get older. And I think if we think about that a lot, it will reveal quite a bit of what we paid to come into this adult life. And the fact is that when we're kids, we had this very precious commodity that many of us either gave away, had taken from us, or was just mislaid, oppressed, pushed down, stolen. It's a very precious thing we have when we're children. Very, very, very precious. And a lot of you who wrote me about the last video said, my gosh, you hit me in a spot deep inside of me that I'd forgotten, or a deep inside of me that, oh my gosh, this hit me really hard. And there was a reason why. I mean, I did that on purpose, hopefully, because I'm trying to get people to recognize what the precious thing or things they had as a child, and what they paid, what they used those to pay their way into adulthood with. Because we trade those things for the stuff that we think is important. Houses, cars, restaurants, jobs. Everyone right now is looking at this stuff. How precious really was this stuff? How solid was this security that we thought it was? And what exactly did we have when we were children that we paid for this illusion? That's kind of the message that I want to get out there this week. And I'm going to add to that with my friends here. So I'm going to add some of the Alice in Wonderland. So are the events that are happening right now getting you to think about things in a different way and getting you to change your action or change your course of actions? What were you headed towards when you were a child that adulthood came along and changed for you? And a lot of us who went to school too, sometimes you go to school and you start down a path of something you really want to do, and then it's like, well, adulthood comes along, you have to be practical, you have to do this, and you can't do what you love and what you're passionate about anymore. So what passions have you given up and paid for this thing that everyone told you was so valuable, and all the advice that you got about how solid a home loan was, and how solid the economy was, and how you had to be a part of this whole dream? Really, how solid was it? And what did you pay those very precious things that you had as a child? Now, you paid to get to be an adult with those things you had in your child. And it's very rare that someone can get from a childhood to adulthood with those things still intact. That is truly a unique and rare individual. A lot of us feel like we've either lost them, misplaced them, or have to go back and get them. The good news is I don't believe you can't. I don't believe you can lose them. I believe you can get them back. If you did lose them, I believe you can get them. It takes work, but you can get them back. And one of the things that I think is happening right now in this purification process is it's purifying the garbage, the tinsel, the fake that people paid to become. They paid something true that was a true diamond, a true jewel as a child. It was priceless, and we gave it so easily for this superficial garbage we call value as adults. To trade your ability to imagine, and wherever you are, be able to build a castle out of boxes. That's something that is priceless. And to pay it for a mortgage where you never even know if you get to keep the house. I got another one here for you. This is actually reinforcing childhood and actually says what I just said about imagination. What did you lose from your imagination that could come back right now and that you probably need right now? That kid who could imagine that he or she was something else. How could you use that right now? How could you use that skill, and how could that skill come into being right now? When you were a kid, what did having an enemy teach you? And what did you do when you were a kid when you had an enemy? Take a real good look at that right now and ask, how is that coming into play right now as someone's telling me I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that, or other people are trying to dictate my behavior, or other people, and people are fighting with each other all over about you should behave this way, you should have this belief, you should have that belief. How much proof do you need? How much proof did you need when you were a kid? Could you figure, hey, I need to go do this, and someone's like, what are you doing? Well, I have to build this thing, or I have to make this thing, or I have to go meet that person. I have to something. When we're kids, we don't need a lot of proof. We just get this hunch that we should go do something, and we go do it. And then when we get to be adults, we ask everyone else, what should I do? How easy was it for you to make friends and make allies? You could walk up to anyone at any time. You've traded that. If you put a bunch of kids together right now, they would walk up to each other, play, and have fun. And now adults are being suspicious of each other and won't go near each other and are afraid to make new acquaintances. Now, those of us who are recognizing what I'm talking about are starting to go, wow, this is nice. And they're starting to be nicer to people. I was actually in a parking lot. I went to the grocery store last week and was in a parking lot, and I had some music on my phone, and we were dancing around to it. And this guy came up to us and he said, people are nicer now. The world is changing and people are nicer now. And he had a big smile on his face, and it was kind of neat to see. why don't I add some tarot to that, and I'm going to bring the stories that are in these cards into play with the messages right here. So I want you to think about these things and think about here's the other thing here. Okay, so we got the Ace of Cups. What fulfilled you as a child, and what did you trade that for? What did you see as value as a child, and what did you trade that for? What did you study and want to become as a child, or did someone actually instill in you the importance of apprenticeship, or the possibility that you could grow up to be something rather magical? Or was it all about being this mundane thing that now is absolutely falling apart in front of our eyes? I'm going to add one more. At what point did people tell you money was more important than your imagination? And then one more thing. How did you feel when you saw when you knew in that morning, for those of you who had this experience, when you got up in the morning and you knew that all these things under the Christmas tree were laid there by Santa Claus? What did you feel? How did you feel when the idea that he was coming at night while you were asleep, with the excitement? What happened to that excitement? Have you had that excitement since? What did you trade that excitement for? And that belief that magic was possible. I'm going to say one more thing. Someone just recently, actually it was my partner recently, told me that he realized that when everyone could be in on the lie of Santa Claus, that it would be very easy for a whole bunch of people to be in on a lie to fool a whole bunch of other people. That's something to think about right now. I think that's a lot. Those are a lot of questions, and I've thrown this all out there because I want people to really think about what role does that stuff that you really valued when you were a child, what role does it play in all of this right now? What did you trade that stuff that you valued for? And is that stuff that you traded it for, do you still think right now with what's going on in the world, do you still think that the trade you made was worth it? I'm Lucky Links, as always, wishing you success and good fortune in all that you do. If you'd like to explore some of these ideas a little further, you can get a reading with me. We can talk about it. We can talk a little bit about why you're really here. If you want to get your Tibetan Astrology Chart done, it will show exactly why you're here. I want people to start thinking about these things because I do readings with people all the time, and I try to get people back to those parts of themselves where they actually say, hey, what did I value? What is valuable? There are so many things that are coming up right now that I would like to do videos about, and I probably will, but they're not lighthearted at all. There will be more Clyde videos, but I think it's time that people really start asking some important questions, and it's not so much about how can we take on someone else's burdens and call that spiritual. Call that a spiritual. If you guys know the story of the Goose Girl, read that one. That's a beautiful story about taking on someone else's burdens. Most of what is being touted as spirituality right now is nothing more than someone else placing their burdens on your shoulders. Their fear of security, their fear of death, their fear of what's coming, their fear that no one will take them seriously, their fear that they have to be a guru and they have to show everyone that they know it all, their fear, their burdens, their ideas, they put it on your shoulder. And a path, if it's truly to be spiritual, should bring you back to that wonder that you felt on Christmas Eve, where you went, oh my gosh, there is magic. There is really magic, and this is running through all things. And right now, I'm very close to it, and there is a possibility that maybe I could be part of it. Do you believe in magic? Did you believe in magic when you were a kid? What stopped you from believing it? What did you trade it for? These are the things that I want people to start thinking about as they watch everything that's going on right now. And people are so busy freaking out. Ask yourself, why is it the big freak out? Is it because the price that you paid for all of this stuff that's falling apart right now, was it just so very precious that you're terrified to realize that the thing that you traded for this thing that is nothing more than a house of cards was much more valuable than that house of cards really is? 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. If you want a reading, you want to get a chart done, contact me. If you want to take a class on how to read the playing cards or any form of divination, contact me. Think. This is a really good time to think. People are seeing things coming out in other people. They're seeing truth being revealed right now. Alice saw it as a house of cards. She saw it for what it is, and she said, my world would be nothing but nonsense if I could make it that way. The fact is, we have set up a world of nonsense. Its rules are nonsense. Its values are nonsense. And yet we've given the most precious things in the world, the most precious things in the world that we have from birth, to be able to partake in this insane asylum that we call adult normal society. And now we are seeing just how foolish that normal adult society we created is. The good news, because I want to end this on a positive note, you can get back to that childlike wonder. You can get back to that magic. There are ways. And they're very, very old ways. From my experience, this is all from my experience because I'm not a master, but as a student of Tibetan Bon, after years of realizing this stuff and how all the religions and all the philosophies and all the philosophy classes I took in college and all of the be an adult, start to date, have a relationship, get a car, buy a house. Once I found Tibetan Bon, I started to realize that those things that I had when I was a kid were truly valuable, and I had no idea how valuable they really were. I suspected, but it is a time for us to open our hearts, and it is a time to get back to what is truly valuable, and it's inside of you, somewhere inside of you.